Well, welcome back to the Azure podcast. This is episode 390, recorded on the 17th of August, 2021. On Teams with me, we have Suji, myself, Cynthia, and our very special guest, Melissa Ma, today, who will be talking about Azure pronunciation assessment. And before we get into our special guests, as usual, we have a couple different updates to share. Suji, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Cynthia. The one update I have is related to Azure Blob Storage. If you do use Azure Blob Storage to store a lot of files, as an administrator, you probably want to keep a tab on how many files I have in there, how many objects I have, what space I'm using. All those things are important to you, and you typically wind up creating some kind of an automation job to run a bunch of queries on it and create reports, which takes a little bit of effort, and this is something that almost everybody wants to do. So now there's a new feature in Azure Blob Storage. It's called Inventory. You can just turn that on, and it'll create that report for you on some regular basis and send it out, email out to you. And this way, you can quickly see, the number of KB that you're using, the number of files that you have in the system to see if you're getting close to some kind of limit. And things like that. So I think that's something very useful for an administrator of Azure Blob Storage. And there's a small cost to it, of course, to run that, but it's done for you by Microsoft, and it's much cheaper than rolling your own, so to speak. And so I definitely recommend take a look at that. And Cynthia, there was another update, which I don't know, maybe I guess Melissa has something to say about this. And this is about upgrading from the text-to-speech from the old standard voice to the more neural voice. I think the traditional voice has been kind of robotic, and there was a choice of two voices in the past. Microsoft decided, the neural voice sounds good, much better anyways. Why would anybody want to hear somebody sounding robotic? Like that. So I guess they decided to just default to the new neural text-to-speech in the future. But in case you are using that the old standard text-to-speech, you're encouraged to migrate to the new text-to-speech. You still have a little bit of time to do that. I think they're going to retire the old one in 2024. So there's plenty of lead time to think about this, but don't see any reason why you shouldn't migrate. Melissa, is there anything you want to say about that?
Yeah. Fortunately, I'm also driving that retirement, so I can chime in for that. Also, I'm invited for pronunciation assessment. Yes, we actually received many feedback from users. They deserve some more natural sounding experience in their applications. And people are complaining the robotic voices, machine voices, where everyone wants to have more natural sounding human voices. Therefore, what we really offer is like our high-end product offering from now on. And people will enjoy the best quality voices with more like style control. And we will have more voice variety over time. We're having 174 neural voices across 70 languages already. We're adding more and more. Therefore, you can see continued investment in neural. Yeah, there's no reason you don't use neural. And we will encourage our existing users consider to migrate it. Migration effort is very small. Just switch the voice name. Yeah, of course, the price will be slightly higher, and you have to pay attention on the price. But over time, we will make effort to reduce costs as well. So we hope that will bring our customers more, the natural sounding, engaging experience in their applications.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that, Melissa. Cynthia, I believe you had a couple of updates in there.
I do. I was just surprised, 174 different voices. I still remember first time when I had the option for my directions to be delivered in like a British accent or from a different accent, and really enjoyed it more than the default one. So it's awesome that you get so many different options now. The two updates I wanted to share One is on the general availability for GitHub Code Spaces for people that have had a chance to play around with it. It is a cloud-based development environment where you can package up in a container the environment you want your developers to run on, so they don't have to spend the time to set it up, and then you get to start writing code right away. And it is now available to all GitHub teams and GitHub Enterprise Cloud customers. The other one is a preview for the ability to resize Azure virtual networks that are peered. So in the past, when you have other peered virtual networks, you have to unpeer those networks first before you can resize your address spaces. But now there is the capability to do that while you're still peered, and then sync those address space changes afterward and not having to experience downtime. So definitely take a look at that. And now, go ahead, Sujit.
No, I just want to say real quick about Code Spaces. I mean, that thing is, I've been using it for a few weeks now. Unfortunately, I got into the early preview of it, and that thing's a game changer. I mean, so many good reasons to use it. From code reviews, just send somebody a PR. They can immediately open up their whole environment in the browser. They don't have to install anything. They can quickly run your app, test it, look at the code. Even using it on a low-powered computer, for example, if I have an old computer that I keep by my bedside, and I know you're not supposed to do that, go to sleep while looking at doing work, but sometimes I can't help myself. So just fire it up with that old laptop, and I can run Code Spaces just fine, because it's just running the browser. That's all you need, right? You don't need anything special in there. So a lot of good reasons to do that. We should do an episode on that, and just on that, actually.
For sure. Well, thank you. Now over to you, Melissa. Can you introduce yourself and tell our listeners what you do at Microsoft?
Sure, my pleasure. I think I introduced a little bit for the retirement, but actually I'm working in Azure speech team, and my current feature area is pronunciation assessment, which has been heavily adopted in education segment to help the language learners to learn the foreign languages more efficiently, faster, and to help both teachers and the students in their practice experience. And so today, I would love to share the feature capabilities and also the use case for our audience, since this feature has been formally announced as GA in May build, and we're welcome more users to integrate our services in their applications. Yeah.
Awesome. So just getting started, what does the service do? What is pronunciation assessment?
Yeah, that's a very good question to start. So pronunciation assessment is a new speech to text capabilities. So we take the user's audio together with reference text as input. So you try to follow the text to read, and then we give the feedback, how the pronunciation of the audience toward the reference text you try to follow and read. And the feedback in the range of accuracy and the fluency and completeness. So you will have that as comprehensive feedback to learn the criteria, how you performed, then to give you the improvement suggestions, so you can iterate over time, practice more, and learn, oh, I do better than last time. So that's how this feature works, to take audio, the speech, and text as input, provide the output score and mispronunciation feedback, whether you mispronounced, whether you have insertion, whether you have omission, as comprehensive feedback to help you improve. So that's how the feature works and does.
So I'm curious, you mentioned there's a score. So do I hear like what is a perfect score as well as I continue to try to repeat that? Or how does that work? Like, how do I improve myself using the service?
Yeah, that's very good questions. So as Azure services, we are aiming the developers and integrators for our using our services, but this feature to help the end user, the students, when they see the applications, it can be really different. So taking that API services as an example, for example, if our developer want to implement a learning app for learning the foreign languages to offer to the students, then they will integrate our API as backend. So they will take the students' practice audios when they try to follow the native pronunciation, good morning. Then they will take the recording of the students and also the good morning as reference text into the system. Then our API will process that and feedback to the application, the app, as the output as how the student performed when they say good morning in native way, how they sounds like accuracy in entire sentence level, every single word like good and morning, whether every word within the word there's phoneme level smaller granularity, whether each phoneme has been perfectly pronounced. When they speak, they tend to have hesitations between the word, so how they sound fluent in a longer paragraph or text, and whether they're kind of having the repetitions compared to the reference text. That will end up together as overall different level of structured score. We will have a full text level score. We also have like smaller granularity, like sentence level, word level, and within the word level, we have a syllable level and smaller one, the phoneme level. So in each structured level of the score, that will actually give the users a comprehensive view where the error has happened, which part actually goes wrong, what is overall performance in average. So taking that, the application can do many things. They can kind of highlight color code. They can emphasize the mispronunciations. They can also extract the word like the student frequently make mistake to practice more. So when they actually giving all those feedback to the students, the students can actually practice more and feedback. That's a learning loop. We also have the TPS can combine with pronunciation to teach students what is perfect pronunciation. So student can listen the correct pronunciation, then practice. So the entire loop will really help the student to iterate.
Yeah, so Melissa, I have a question for you. How did you arrive at the baseline that is used to measure what this, what the score is going to be? Like, how do you know what is the correct pronunciation? How did you go through that process? Or is that something, a secret sauce that you can't reveal?
Good questions. Good questions. So in order to learn the native pronunciations, Azure Speech actually taking the hundreds of the thousands of the training data for each languages to learn the accurate native pronunciations as a baseline. So you static baseline, when we compared with users audio, we're really taking the distance between the baseline and your audios. So do the comparison. Really the score representing how close you are to the average native speaking for that language. The richness of the data collection, the variety of the data collection for the training data, representing how good we're understanding the native pronunciation for that to give the students feedback.
So I guess how did you arrive at that baseline? Like, how did you come to that baseline? Did you get a whole bunch of native speakers and record this is what it sounds like, and then created some sort of a training set? How was that done?
Yeah, So the baseline is our best speech model. So they can speech recognition model is our baseline. So they actually is a super knowledge model. They will know every single word how they should pronounce by training from hundreds of thousands of the hours of the audio data we collected from everyday life and conversations, all different scenarios. So this is kind of during the normal process. That base model will serve all speech to text features. So this is kind of a basic knowledge we're having. When we actually can know the native pronunciation of the word, then that knowledge will determine what is right and what is wrong. So when you give a speech audio, basically our model can compare the two audio by comparing their major features, the similarities, and give you the combined, the distance, how close you are to the native speaking in terms of the fluency, in terms of the pronunciation accuracy, so in terms of all various of the major features. So when we give out of the score, it's representing the closeness you are to the native speaking. So that's how we define that, the distance. Going on, we also have the native, we call the language expert, and the teachers to do the continued evaluations. So when you do the closeness, that's just a side effect. How they actually close to a human evaluation, the judgment, that will take time for us to learn from our customer feedback. So this means we have our learning and testing set. We also need the customer's evaluation set to prove we're good. Over time, we have been taking and working with many leading global education partners. They are actually testing our API with the evaluation set labeled by their own teachers, many teachers. And so we are testing our API to show how machine performed with the human evaluation, how close that. We call that Pearson correlations. The closer you're close to the teacher, the better your API will be performed. So over time, we're showing a very competing score in markets compared to other solution providers. That's how our customer will trust our services and to take AI as, you can say, additional AI teachers to join their evaluation to help students together. So we call that more trusted results.
Got it. That's really cool. I am a huge fan of the learning app that rhymes with bingo, and I've been on multiple 100-day streaks, and I'm always curious, like, how do they know that I've pronounced this Spanish word right or not? And so now I may know that they're comparing how I'm speaking and the features of kind of my sound wave to what the right answer should be. And Melissa, I know in a post that you sent out in terms of all the updates, there's also integration with Microsoft PowerPoint Presenter Coach. Can you talk a little bit more about that, like how a presenter can kind of leverage Presenter Coach as well as this assessment service to make their presentation better?
Yes, that's actually a very unique capability of our features. Generally, we start with smaller, easier task. As when we describe it as you give a reference text, you try to follow. But when we present like now talking, you don't really follow the presentation. If you follow your presentation and read through that, it's boring. So when you have the presentation slides behind you, you tend to use it as just a context. You're giving we call that a freestyle speech. That is more challenging evaluations because you have less knowledge about what you should say against the text. right? We call that like a freestyle speech evaluation. That is the most challenging research topic in the speech recognition entire world. So most of the speech evaluations, as far as we see in market, are more focused on reference-based evaluation. The work we did with PowerPoint Coach as most cutting-edge technology in the world that we offer. We take the slides as context, but we could actually give you the evaluation feedback, similarly as we give it for reference text-based evaluation on your accuracy and fluency and mispronunciation detections. So that will help the presenters during the practice mode. You will see two features. First one is when you're going through slide by slide, you have the real-time pop-up on your right corner, and they will give you real-time feedback. When you talk through, you have any mispronunciation word. Currently, we give the feedback in real time simultaneously, and then you can stop immediately, click the button, and practice more. Or you can just see that, talk through until the end. We will have a summary of the mispronunciation words you have been most likely frequently happened for the mispronunciation. It will give you the chance to practice all together. So these features help presenters to practice more. And that will not only targeting like we talk about the kids learning the foreign languages. For this, target more like a variety of the range of the age. It's more for older busy professionals. The use cases are very broad.
So I'm curious because you mentioned the reference text, and it didn't really click for me until you said when you're presenting, there's actually no necessarily
yes,
like
that's the difference.
So do you do a speech to text first, and then you do a comparison of what you're saying versus how you're pronouncing them? Is that or maybe it's some secret sauce that you can't tell us about?
The simple rule, yes, you could do that,
okay.
but more advanced layer are comprehensive. So the accuracy of your understanding from speech to text is the basic. But people, when they give the freestyle speaking without domain restrictions, your guess could be wrong. Therefore, we will also take your slide text as the context, which will improve understanding about your freestyle speaking on the go. And will also trigger and fare the most high confident alert for your mispronunciations. That will actually give the experience better accuracy. So the most challenging thing is if without slides, no context, that's most challenging.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Melissa. I wanted to ask you, in the normal pronunciation assessment API, how long does an API call typically take? Let's say, you have an average sentence, because it sounds like there's a lot going on in the back end over there. But what is the expectation from an application that's using the API in terms of how long that should typically take before they can provide some feedback to the user?
Yeah, generally we provide a real-time feedback. So because we have the streaming mode, you can feed in sentence by sentence, and then you can have the feedback in real time. So you can cut your entire paragraph streaming feed in. Therefore, that's how PowerPoint Coach can capture the real-time alert while you're talking. So expectation is real time.
Okay, so even the regular Azure pronunciation assessment that you talked about earlier, that is also streaming mode. You get yes. the feedback or the score that you were talking about. You get that
yes,
as soon as you've said the particular word or sentence or syllable. As you said, it depends on the level that you go at.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, that's good. And
but maybe I can comment a little bit on the implementation as if you have an entire big chunk of the paragraph, if you send at the end of the paragraph, then it feels a little bit buffer delay. When I talk about streaming as while you start talking, before you finish entire paragraph, the uploading should start over time. Then you'll be able to have your real-time feedback right after you finish your last sentence. But if you send entire chunk of that, there will be noticeable delay. Well, we will not recommend in the implementation.
And then the final question I have from my side is, how do we charge customers for this? Like, what's the pricing model if that's already been decided?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have a very simple charging mode. We call that pay as you go. So you don't really have to do training and processing and hosting. So you come here and you just use as you based on the usage of the length of the audio for your evaluations. We charge $1 per hour evaluation hours, which means you can add up your minutes evaluations. In terms of the most of the common practice scenario, you can imagine people practice Word, so that's very small, like a few seconds usage. Some other applications, competitors probably offer API based, so you can also compare that. End up that if you have shorter utterance scenarios, this cost model benefit you more.
I just feel like I learned something that I didn't know existed, and I didn't know about all the amazing things that happens in the background for this to show up as something that's so simple and easy from the consumer side. So as closing, Melissa, do you have any new updates you want to share with our listeners, or anything they should go try out, any call to action?
Yes, sure. For GA, we have the American English offered, and we actually focus on the reference-based evaluations. However, we'll have more preview feature coming. People are free to try out. First of all, as we do have the no reference text API, they can try that for their applications. We also scaled to many other languages as well. So currently, we welcome more customers to engage with us, and they can try other languages. Just switch the language config. They can use a similar feedback response like they use it for American English. Yeah, we're also having other additional features. For example, the syllabus, the score, smaller granularity control, as also the new features. And we are also having the output like spoken form. So some people will want to say, well, I goes wrong, but what I really pronounce sounds like. Can you tell me? Then I can compare what I really speak compared to what I should speak. So we call that spoken form output. You can use that output to give user more meaningful feedback as well. So there are many other coming for the features level. So just pay attention about our preview update, and we welcome the feedback for customers.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. That's really nice.
Yeah, my pleasure.